Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs.
We're Laryssa and Liz, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in this industry.
Welcome to episode number 29. In this episode, Laryssa and I will be talking about social media platforms to consider and best practices for each. More specifically, what's going on with Instagram, social media platforms to consider and best practices, and how to choose which are right for your brand. We also want to tell you about our insider community. When you join for only $20 a month, you'll have access to extended episodes full of tips that you can start implementing today and further resources about each topic we discuss. To get access to exclusive content and really long episodes where Laryssa and I talk for quite a while, sign up by visiting successwithjewelry.com. Hey, Laryssa, let's get into it.
Let's talk about social media, this mysterious topic that everyone's just trying to keep up with because it changes so quickly and so often.
And I think what most people are wondering about right now is what's going on with Instagram.
Definitely.
So one of the big changes that's coming is paid verification. So verification is that coveted blue check mark that celebrities and big influencers have next to their names. And what this does is their content shows up a little bit more frequently. If they're writing a comment on a different post, the comment usually comes up first, and it also just verifies that they're a real person. And so if somebody's trying to impersonate them or create a different account, we know that the real person is the one with the blue check mark. And so what they're trying to do is they're creating a subscription service that lets users verify their accounts with a government ID, then get this blue check mark, and then get impersonation protection against accounts claiming to be that user. And something we've been seeing a lot is hacking and, again, impersonation. And there's nobody you can really contact at Instagram if this happens to you, and you could lose your whole account and essentially your whole business if you're doing a lot of business there and you've been building that account for a long time. So with this, you'd get access to customer support. So there's somebody that you'd be able to contact. And this starts at $14.99 a month.
I just have to say, this is dumb as heck.
I think a lot of people, especially content creators, are not happy because there's so many issues with Instagram right now. Our reach is so low, and this is across the board for accounts I manage. And then all the designers I speak with regularly, I mean, reach is just 10% of your following. It's so low right now, and they need to fix that first.
I mean, protecting user accounts and offering support, that should be a bare minimum service for a platform, and they're making it seem oh no, this is a premium thing, it's a privilege to be on here, so if you want to have a good experience, you got to pay for it. I want this $14.99 to give some better, more upgraded kind of features.
Yeah, and then also we're getting into pay to play. And so Meta, which is the company that owns Facebook and Instagram, I mean, Facebook has been pay to play for so long, it's impossible to kind of expand your reach past who's already following you, who already knows about your brand. And it's even hard to access them or to reach them with your content. So I think that this is kind of too close to that. When does this become something that's not social media anymore? So that's something new that I'm worried about, but they're making a lot of changes, I think, and that could be what's affecting the reach at this point, because a lot of times when they make changes on the back end, it affects the front end and how stuff is viewed. But I think that they really need to figure out how to kind of be the platform that was able to support small businesses again. But anyway, so another thing that's changing is broadcast channels is something that they're rolling out or testing. I'm not sure if they're fully rolling it out yet, but it's essentially another way to talk to your audience, and it's just text based, and people can't comment, but they can react with like an emoji or like liking it and things like that. And it comes through the direct messages, kind of like a tweet, I guess would be the closest thing that it would be. Like you can send a big message out to everybody who's subscribed to this broadcast channel. And my concern about this is that now there's just so many places to post content and so many places that people can receive content, because let's not forget they rolled this out maybe a month or two ago, but that like away message you can put up now. There's just so much that you need to be thinking about in terms of putting out content. And I think it's just too much.
Away message. Are we back in like 2001 or something?
I actually played with that for our Instagram account, and I was like, check out episode 25 or whatever episode was out. And it's a good way if somebody is like in their DMs replying to other people, for you to be kind of like promoting exactly like what's going on, or what you want to be talking about in any given moment. But it's just too much. And then the last change that is coming out is GIFs and comments. And again, it's just too much. You know, why do we need this?
Why? It's so unnecessary. I mean, the broadcast channels ones, even though I think it's veering too far away from Instagram's identity, it makes sense because I think more people are communicating in DMs and they want that more like one-to-one channel on Instagram. But it's just, I don't even know what to say about it.
The issue with the broadcast channel, I think, is that, yeah, people can like and like do a sad face or like react to what you're putting out there, but there's no easy way for somebody to respond via DM, from what I've seen so far. So yeah, you're putting out this content, but you're essentially saying, yeah, it's out here, but you can't engage with me, which is kind of counterproductive to what's
Yeah.
actually working on Instagram right now, which is
Mhm.
people engaging through your stories.
Definitely.
So looking at what's working on Instagram right now, like I said, people engaging in the direct messages through your stories. This is something I've seen on my own page and pages I manage, but also I've heard it from designers when I talk to them, and it's like, what's working on Instagram for you? Prioritizing stories. A lot of people are spending more time there, and it's the gateway to your direct messages. So think about posting on stories and not just sharing a feed post, but posting like an arc, a story arc, like tell a story in your stories. I like to align it with what I'm posting in my feed, but a great example of like how to think about it is like if you're doing a day in the life, you're showing your morning coffee, you're showing what's on your bench, you're showing your like afternoon walk with your dogs, and then you're showing like, you know, maybe you went out to like a cool spot for a cocktail at the end of the day. Like that whole story, people want to follow you through that. So that's how you want to think about posting your stories. This is where most of the engagement's happening. So what else is working is posting consistently, and that works everywhere all the time. Being consistent is a great way to find success. I like a mix of carousel posts, photos, and reels. So don't just choose one type of thing to be posting, both in your feed and your stories. Like just have a nice mix of all different types of content. And then also engaging with your audience. And I think this is something people are really burnt out with, but it used to be like the best way to grow your audience. And I think it's still really important. Just make sure you're really clear on who you're talking to and what audience you're trying to engage with, and just spend like 10 to 15 minutes a day just liking and doing thoughtful comments on these people's profiles and posts they've put out there. And then the last two things I'll say is use a strong call to action always, even if it's like send me a message or swipe to see what it looked like on my bench, or click the link in my profile, whatever that call to action is, make sure you have one. And then the last thing is make sure you're using portrait, vertical photos and content versus landscape, because they're performing much better.
And I think to your point about calls to action, get people to sign up for your email.
Yes.
Have a direct, either in your story, like a direct link to the sign up form or page, so that, you can eventually transition away from being reliant on that Instagram engagement and have more control with your email list.
Yes. Even though we're talking about social media platforms here, I think the number one thing to think about focusing on in your business is email marketing.
100%. We're all in.
We're all in on email marketing, and we just did a whole series about this. So go back and listen because it should be helpful. All right, now we're going to talk about three social media platforms to consider. And these are three that I feel like are getting a little bit of buzz right now. It doesn't mean you should drop everything and do all of these. Choose one, and think about how you can maybe focus on it and see if you're getting results. And then you can kind of keep moving forward and seeing how you're going with it. But don't do all of this. Just listen and think about which could be a good fit for your brand. The first one's Pinterest. And Pinterest, I think, is a great platform because anything you post there can show up in Google search results. So everything's searchable, and also it drives traffic to your website.
Yeah, it's especially a low hanging fruit for smaller brands that, when Pinterest first came out, everyone was pinning, making all these boards. If you already have a profile that's like pretty well populated, you already have some data about like the people who are interacting with your pins, and it's likely already driving some traffic to your website, even if it's a small amount. So now it's about, all right, I got the foundation. Let me go in and kind of like update it for 2023 per the best practices. And then you can like grow what you already started a while ago.
Definitely. So Pinterest likes portrait photos too. Essentially, every social media account except for YouTube likes portrait photos. So you want to be thinking vertical versus horizontal. Focus on your brand and don't waste time repinning things. So you just want to make sure everything new that's added to your website and all of your collections are pinned to your Pinterest profile. Maybe you're pinning from Instagram and your blog too, but make sure everything you're doing is going back to your brand, because that's the best place to spend your time. It's recommended to do 5 to 10 pins a day, which feels like a lot, but I like an app called Tailwind where you can schedule them in advance and it will post at optimized times for you. And then the newest thing about Pinterest is idea pins, which actually don't drive people off of Pinterest, but they can help you expand your reach on the platform. And what I like to do is really repurpose my Instagram stories and my reels or my TikToks to create these idea pins, but definitely try this out because Pinterest seems to be serving this to more people. And then the next platform that everybody's talking about is TikTok. I think we did a whole episode about TikTok, did we?
I can't remember.
I can't either. But I think we've talked about TikTok in the past, but everybody's talking about TikTok. It has its own issues because the algorithm is a lot more unpredictable than it used to be. And also it might be banned. So those are two things to know about TikTok. But if you do want to try it out, make sure you're using existing trends. That's a great way to kind of start growing your following there. And then you really want to think about it in terms of entertainment. So you want to be telling a story, you want to be showing a process, you want to be funny or amusing, and think about how you can really do something that's engaging. And then the other thing to know about TikTok is it needs to be full screen. So if you're not doing full screen video there, there's really no point in doing it. So that's TikTok. Also something about TikTok, the last thing I'll say about TikTok is that if you have a younger audience, it could make sense for you. So if you're trying to engage Gen Z, they're not doing Instagram, they're on TikTok. So you do kind of really need to think about it if you're looking for a younger audience. If you're trying to engage millennials or older generations, then it might not be something that you need to worry about.
I think that's such an important thing. Like if there are listeners out there that haven't started their business yet and they just have an idea and they're trying to like figure out how to go forward, and your target audience, before you do this, like know that you're ready to commit to the things that it's going to take to reach that audience, because not everyone is like realistic with themselves about that.
That's so true. And you need to be really specific to find success on TikTok. Like you need to put yourself out there a little bit. You need to engage with like the trends that, dancing, and you don't necessarily have to dance, but you need to think about the trends that are happening and think about how you can make them work for your business. And if you want to reach Gen Z, I mean, every Gen Zer I've met, who I've spoken with is not on Instagram, they're on TikTok. So it's definitely something you need to think about. But the last platform we'll talk about is LinkedIn. And this has been getting a little bit of buzz recently too. It's a great place to think about if you have a previous career and you have a lot of connections, then it might make sense. And you'll want to, and if you want to grow your business, if you're thinking about scaling in the future and like bringing on employees, it could be really good to create a LinkedIn company page and then leverage your connections that you already have to grow that page. They really only want you to post once a week there. You can post more, but they encourage at least once a week and being really consistent in that. And using photos and videos to optimize your posts have really good. I was reading their blog about like what type of post performs really well on LinkedIn, and good grammar is something that they really value.
I like that.
I do too. And I also like that they're really clear about what they're looking for or like what performs well. But another thing to think about is just relevancy. Like, so, we're recording on St. Patrick's Day. So you might want to post something about that if you're doing a post on LinkedIn. I think it's also a great place for your press, or like if you're ever doing a reintroduction to yourself or any company information, that's a great place to be sharing that. And make sure you're engaging with your audience. So what, thinking about these platforms, look into them, but really choose which ones to use based on what's right for your brand. So how do you know if any of these are right for your brand? We touched on it a little bit, but first and foremost, and the most important thing, and Laryssa like 100% agrees with this, is know your audience.
I feel like we didn't touch on it a little bit, Liz. We say it in like every episode.
If you listen to this podcast and you are not trying to figure out who your audience is, or you're not getting clear on that, or you don't have like a post-it note above your bench or computer with who your audience is, you should do that.
Yeah, it's everything. It's everything.
It drives like truly every aspect of marketing. So not only knowing them, but also where are they? What are they engaging with? So the example of TikTok and like Gen Z, like if you are trying to reach that Gen Z audience, you need to be on TikTok. So that's one way you can think about your audience. If you know that, we didn't really mention Facebook because I really think that Facebook isn't necessarily worth developing unless you already have an audience there. But if you know every time you post on Facebook, you get a sale or you get a great response or you get a great lead, then maybe your audience is on Facebook and you do want to work on that platform. So know where your audience is and what type of content they're engaging with. And another thing to think about is what type of content you like creating. And, if you're really excited about creating a certain type of content that works really well with a certain type of platform, it could be good to try out because you have some excitement there, you have some passion there. So that's one thing to think about too. And then always, 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 always do more of what's working. So this is why it's so good to report. This is why it's so good to kind of take notes on where sales are coming from, where leads are coming from, because when something's working, you want to do more of that. All right. What social media platforms are you using for your business? Let us know. Again, you can visit successwithjewelry.com to sign up for extended episodes as well as exclusive content. Thank you so much for listening.